What is up, you guys? It's Dee. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be doing another tutorial where I'm actually going to be manipulating a pattern that I actually worked on first. It was my first pattern that I uploaded this year. So yeah, I actually wanted to do an introduction for my video, a proper one where you guys can see my face, because I realized that the first tutorial that I did for the patchwork top, it didn't come out properly, particularly for the pattern itself. So yeah, I'm going to insert a picture of the top that I want to make somewhere here. So essentially, I saw this top on Pinterest and I was like, yes. And I'm actually using like scrap fabric to do it. So I'm really hoping that the scrap fabric will be enough, because I'm trying to actually become a sustainable fashion designer, I guess, just, like working with what I have instead of just like going out of, because I have like a lot of scrap fabric and I've been thinking to myself, what am I going to do with it? But I realized, no, man, I can do a lot of things with it. So yeah, so I saw this top on Pinterest and I was like, yes, I'm gonna make it in the exact colors as the one as you guys see on the screen. I'm gonna make it in, I think it's a blue and green. It's like a green, like a forest green, and a royal blue, like a royal nice beautiful blue. And I'm gonna be using what you call this, satin, silky satin, to construct this garment. There are a few things that I'm also going to be mentioning in this video. So first things first, not only are we just doing a pattern, but I'm also going to introduce you to something called facings and how we go about recreating or making facings for certain garments. So when you hear the term facing, don't be confused. It's just a term that we use in the fashion industry for garments that have, I'm pretty sure you're quite familiar with your own garments. They possibly might have this, where, for instance, take this top, right? And then if I were to go inside, it has like an extra piece, but it's not a big piece. Like maybe it's like an extra piece going around like this on the neckline. That is called a facing, and usually we fuse it and then it's overlocked at the bottom and then we just connect it where we essentially connect it. And facings are usually found in the neckline, the holes, as well as a facing for your blazers as well, and your button stands as well. So yeah, I hope that clarifies everything. So don't be confused when I start mentioning we're doing a facing. It's gonna be so simple. Trust me, you're gonna enjoy it. Let's move on to the tutorial. Okay guys, so for this tutorial you are going to need a marker, a tracing wheel. So this is a tracing wheel. I mentioned it in one of my previous videos. So this is how a tracing wheel looks like. As you can see, it has these sharp teeth over here, which basically, it traces the pattern. I'm going to use, well, give me a sec, a ruler. And this was the old pattern that we created, which was in size 12. And you're also going to need some new pattern paper. So I have my pattern paper over here, and essentially I want to start with the back of our garment. So I'm going to go ahead and unravel this pattern paper over here. So your pattern paper should look something like this. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to use my ruler to like draw in the shaping of the waist. So I'm going to go and take my pencil. And for the back section of our garment, it is going to be 1.5. So I know for this, the back of our garment, it's going to be 1.5 of our pattern. And then for the front, it's going to be 2.5. So 2.5. And then that is going to be essentially our new shape of our garment. So there you have it. And then I'm tracing, well, I'm drawing in these lines here. So this is the new shape that we're going to follow. Also, another thing that we're going to do is we're going to give, once you've drawn in the new shaping of your waist, you're going to go here to the waistline and you're just going to add a 1 centimeter to the center front. just 1 centimeter. And then from this line, from number 6 to number 5 on your pattern, the waistline, you're going to connect the front and the back by 1 centimeter, starting here. So here, you're going to start from the waistline and you're going to go all the way to the front to number 6. So as you can see, waistline all the way to the front, number 6, and that is going to be our new line. So we're just going to go ahead and just do this and also draw in, extend this part. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, here's my paper that I'm going to be tracing on, and this is my pattern. So I already know, I have an estimate of like an idea of how big I'm going to be tracing. So I already know where I'm going to be tracing. This is just to save paper. I'm going to go ahead with my steel ruler and start tracing. The reason why I'm using a steel ruler is because the tracing wheel is strong. So if you're using a ruler that isn't metal or steel or any type of, it doesn't have that type of strength, it will literally trace on your ruler. So at least when I use a steel ruler, it won't do that. So as you can see, I'm tracing along the new lines, and I'm also tracing only at the back area, only till this line on number 2. That's because that is how, that's the back of the top, or how small the back of the top is. And I'm only tracing all the way to the waist of my top, because that is also how small the top is. It's not actually a long top, so it literally stops by the waist. Or at least I want mine to stop by the waist. So just tracing, and I actually cut myself with the tracing wheel, and then I'm just drawing in my new line, my new waistband, my new waistline that I'm following. So just tracing that in. Now I'm gonna move my pattern. Then I'm going to go ahead with my marker and my ruler, and I'm going to start drawing the new pattern that I did. So I'm just going to mark in the points, point, and I'm just going to draw this line, point, and I'm going to draw in a new line. This is another point, and this is another point. So I know that here is my center seam, or my center back. So I'm just gonna write center back, cut on fold. And then over here is my new line, and there you guys have it. I have a ultimately new pattern, and you can just go ahead and add 1 centimeter seam allowance. But when you're working with satin and you're quite new with working with satin, you are allowed to have 1.5, because satin does frail relatively easy. So you're allowed to. Just making sure that this is also a 1 cent. Just gonna do it like this, and then you're not gonna add a seam allowance on the center back, because the center back you're gonna cut it on fold, so no seam allowance is required. Okay, so now I've gone ahead and I've cut out my pattern piece. Now we're going to do our facing. So the facing, what you need to do is, first you need to acknowledge how big you want, excuse me, I'm just looking for a pencil, how big you want your facing to be. So usually we work with like 3-4 centimeters. Like I feel like 4 is kind of like an exaggeration, but it really does depend on how, like, what type of garment are you making. The type of garment that you're making and the amount of facing you're having on your garment will determine how big or small you want your facing to be. So for me, I want to make it 4 centimeters. I feel like that is the safe distance, safe spot. So I'm just gonna mark that out, and just gonna do this. So I know this is where my facing is going to essentially end. So now with your tracing wheel, you're gonna trace out this line on a new pattern piece, on new pattern paper. Just gonna trace out this line, just like this. You're gonna trace out this line. If you want to make it simple for yourself, you can trace out this line, but I've already cut out my pieces, so yeah, I don't want to mess up the lines. I can always just, you know, do another seam allowance, not a problem. And then also trace out this line over here. Okay, now once again, you're gonna go ahead with your ruler and your marker, and you're just gonna mark out, I'm just gonna mark out here, this piece and this dot over here, and I'm just going to use this to create an L square so I know where exactly do I need to. And then you don't have to create a seam allowance over here because this is the bottom, and you can essentially overlock the bottom of your facing. And I'm making another line here, and I'm going ahead and I'm making a seam allowance over here of 1 centimeter. And then we're going to draw in this line and a seam allowance of 1 centimeter. And there you guys have it. This is our first facing. This is for the back. So you can write SB, which is center back. We already know you're cutting it on fold, and you can just say facing. So now we are going to trace out the front of our pattern. So once again, I'm going to go ahead and place my pattern on my paper. Now I know for this one, we are going to trace along these lines over here like this going. So that is what we're gonna do. And just to make things a little bit more stable, I'm going to use my crayon and put it here. So that way the paper doesn't move as I trace. So I'm gonna start at the bottom. Just gonna go ahead and trace out the new waist or length of our top. Then I'm gonna trace out this area over here, our new shaping. I'm gonna trace out the center front. And please note, we're also going to reshape the center front, but we're gonna do that in our final pattern. So there you have it. And then I'm just going to be quite vigilant about moving this because I don't want the pattern to move. And then because I want to trace out the dot that we are going to close, by the way. Well, not close precisely, but move. And then once again, I'm going to trace out this side of the dot. Then I'm going to trace out my shoulder over here. And then finally, my arm style or my armhole, whichever one you want to work with at this point. Honestly, the pronunciation is killing me. Okay, just tracing. And also, when you're using a tracing wheel, I would suggest you have a cutting board underneath because it is going to leave marks on your table. Just saying. Okay, we are ready to take it off. Okay, I didn't trace out a neckline, but it's fine. Not a train smash. We can always redraw a neckline, to be honest. Okay, now I want to make sure that my lines are lining up. So let's start there. They're lining up, and then just drawing in the new shaping. They're lining up. So drawing in the center front. And then this is my dot and shoulder. So therefore, these lines are also lining up. There you have it. And shoulder. And then the arm sky over here. So it's that. Okay, and then obviously our neckline. First off, 1 centimeter over here, just a little bit, and yeah. So there you guys have it. This is now our traced out version of our pattern. So I know that there's a dot, or I think there is a dot. I'm assuming there's a dot, but there is a dot somewhere here. So I'm gonna make a line here. I want to take away about 2 centimeters from the front. So let's say here. Okay, let me take from 1. Yeah, 1. Okay, 1.5 meters. This ruler is not ruling the way the ruler is supposed to rule. Okay, from here I want to take away 1.5 meters. Also here 1.5 meters. Right, and then we're gonna have this line drawn. Just like that, right? Okay, so I made a little bit of a mistake, but I thought it was recording, but this whole time it clearly wasn't. So you're gonna cut out your dot, right? And remember, you drew a line here. So funny story, my thingy, it tore. But anyways, so essentially after you're done cutting it and you cut a line here, you should be able to close your dot. And I'm gonna go ahead with my masking tape, and I'm just basically gonna close the dot with the masking tape that doesn't want to open. Okay, so there we have it, cutting the masking tape, and yeah, there you have it. There we go. And as you can see, there's a new dot that has formed over here, but you can also see that like this area right here is just not shaped well. So there will be some reshaping that you're gonna have to do, but we will talk about that in a minute. I'm just trying to finish here quickly. And then there we go. Okay. Okay, so now we have our new, I'm kind of worried. I don't like seeing this line over here. Yeah, okay. Okay, so now we have our new pattern with our new dot, right? So this is the dot that we want. This is the dot that we're keeping. Now we're going to go ahead and we are going to essentially, we're not really going to reshape this area because once it closes, it's going to go back to how it used to be. But we definitely want to shape, because as you can see, like from the picture, I will try to include it also in this section of the tutorial, but we have like a V tapper line going on the booby section. So you're gonna mark out where exactly you want your V to be. I feel like this is a great spot because it's not too high, not too low. The good thing is that I double checked, so I was making it too close to the bust point itself, or like the center of the bust point. So yeah, let's keep this line and let's make it towards here. Yes, so let's make it like this, and this becomes our new pattern or armhole. Yes, this becomes our new armhole, and this becomes our new neckline. Yeah, this becomes our new neckline, everybody. Woo! Okay, this one looks better. This is the line that we're taking. Okay, yeah, it's beginning to resemble the top just a little bit. Now, once again, we're going to do a facing. So because in my first facing, the back was 3 centimeter, it was 4 centimeters. It means that also this facing has to be 4 centimeters. So we are going to make it like this. Just gonna mark it here, 4. Excuse me. Just mark another one, another 4 over here. You're going to mark a 4 right here. You're gonna mark another 4. You're going to mark another 4, and you're going to have another 4. Well, yeah, essentially you get the gist of it. So now here is what you can do. You can go ahead and trace this new pattern out if you want to, if that's something that you feel works for you. But if you don't want to waste your time, then you really don't have to. But first, let me just draw in this quickly, just to show you how your facing will relatively look like. You follow the curvature of your actual pattern, like that. Try to kind of like curve it, that way it kind of smoothly blends into the pattern. Yeah, and then here you're gonna just see, just a little bit. And you're gonna follow it up with just, as you can see, yeah, with just a regular curve. Oh gosh, I hope this is making sense to you guys. It's literally the hunger speaking for me. Okay, I've decided that I'm just going to do another pattern. So I'm gonna trace this pattern out, because you never know if I'm gonna need this pattern again. So I'm gonna just go ahead and trace it out, the new pattern obviously. Just put this here so this pattern doesn't move. Okay. And I'm just going to have an indication of like my dot right here. Okay, I have a dot over there. And then I'm gonna go ahead with your tracing wheel, and you're just gonna trace out the new neckline. And whoa, the new arm sky or the armhole. Okay, cool. Then we know that this over here is 1 centimeter. Now I'm gonna go ahead and redraw my pattern so I know here and here. It's even better to work on white paper, but yeah, I got my paper from school, y'all, so don't blame me, it was free. Okay, and then we have our new dot indication over here, and now another dot indication right there. Then we have this, we have this, we have our new armhole. And our another different neckline. And that is our new front. Now we want to cut this off, and then we're going to do our facing. Okay, I've taken the old paper and I placed it here because I know this is where I'm just checking to see that. Okay, seems like every coast is clear, so I'm gonna go ahead and start tracing out my facing. So first things first, I'm just gonna trace out the outline of my pattern quickly. And this line over here. Then I'm gonna follow it up with the new line, the facing line. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and match that line with this line. Yeah. And then I'm gonna make the new line once again. And the new armhole. And then there you have it. Now all I have to do is just redraw there, and then you're just going to add a 1 centimeter seam allowance over there. You're also going to add another 1 centimeter seam allowance. You're going to add a 1 centimeter allowance as well here. Essentially, you're going to add a centimeter seam allowance all around, except this area. So seam allowance, seam allowance. And then you have yourself a facing. we're also going to add a seam allowance here, a seam allowance at the bottom, seam allowance on the side, and a seam allowance all around, essentially. And there you guys have it. That is our pattern. Now let me cut it out. Okay guys, so at the end of this tutorial, you must have something that looks like this. I'm pretty sure you've noticed that I didn't add any straps into it because, yeah, like a strap pattern, to be honest, I just cut on the fabric 1 centimeter, or I just cut on the fabric depending on the size that I want, 2 to 3 centimeters. But if you want to include a pattern for that, then you can just like draw a line straight. But we'll look at that in the next tutorial. We'll speak about it in the sewing tutorial. But essentially, so this is the front. I've labeled it front ladies front tie crop top size 12, which I'm going to cut times 2 on the fabric. And this is the front facing that you also cut times 2. And then this is the ladies back front tie crop top size 12, and you cut it times 1 because you are cutting it on fold. And then this is the facing, which you also cut times 1 because you're also going to cut it on a fold. So yeah, everybody, this is your pattern. By the end of this pattern, you should have, by the end of this tutorial, you should have something that looks a little bit like this. So I'm going to see you guys on the sewing tutorial, and yeah, have fun with it.